What's up YouTube? So my name is Sean Bella. I have owned my shop, Pro Auto, for 10 years so far. And so I wanted to give you a video that you can kind of use to see if this is something you want to go into, if you're right for this, if you're thinking about it, if you're already working somewhere and you're thinking you really want to make that jump. So I wanted to make a video that could kind of give you like about nine points of like, okay, if you're really going to do this, what are you going to do, right? Because owning an auto repair shop is not easy. I mean, it's not an easy job at all. It's kind of like working for the morgue. You only call with really bad news, right? And so that's where our industry can be so complicated, is that it's not always the easiest thing, but it can be really fun and you can really enjoy it too. So some of the things that you're really going to want to think about, right? So you want to open a shop, okay? Do you have what it takes to open a shop? Okay, now what I mean by that is, do you have experience, right? How many years have you been doing this? How knowledgeable are you with like all makes, all models? Because if you're gonna be doing basic automotive repair, you need to understand all makes, all models. So it's not like working at the dealership where you're just working on, you know, a Kia Rio, a Kia Rio, a Kia Rio, a Kia Optima. That's it, right? So you're not gonna be doing that. You gotta work on every single thing. So you have to know everything. You have to be comfortable working on every single thing. And it's something that obviously if you've made it this far, you can do that. So, you know, you really just have to really be open and knowledgeable and knowing everything about every make and every model, which honestly is good for you because that sets you apart from a dealership. And that's where dealerships fail all the time. Why? Because they only do certain makes and certain models. So, okay, so how much money do I need to start doing this, right? Okay, well, my experience is this. So when I opened my shop, I sold my car. I had an '07 Honda Accord. I sold it for $2,800, right? And that got me 1 month's rent. And that got me a lift. I want to say it was like a Chinese lift, but you know what? It still did its job. And so, you know, that's where I really started was, you know, 1 month's rent. I think it paid the deposit too. And then I really didn't have much capital after that. I think I only had like $100, $200. Luckily at the time, I had knew some of the AutoZone people kind of well. They kind of floated some stuff for me sometimes, and that helped a lot. So it doesn't take a lot of money to actually open a shop. You know, you can really start with nothing. Now, these days it is a little more complicated, and I say that because these days, the cost of just renting a place is not what it used to be. I mean, if you're looking to buy a place, you can probably get a mortgage cheaper. It depends on your area, where you are. You know, geographics is pretty much everything when it comes down to price these days. So you got to really kind of weigh your options, find the right place. And when you find that right place, you got to be pretty committed to, you know, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And it's not going to take a whole bunch of money. It's just going to take a lot of grit. And you're really going to have to grind it out for a couple years. I mean, I'm 10 years into this and I feel like I'm still grinding it out every single day. And it's not easy. I mean, it's not the most easiest thing to do, but it is possible. And it's something that you can do. Do you need ASEs to do it? Okay. I had ASEs. They all expired, right? Because those were hot back in the day for dealerships. ASEs are really, honestly, nothing except a piece of paper that says you understand brakes and suspension. You understand that you're a master tech and you know electrical and you know every single other component to an L1, okay? You don't need all that, okay? If you've been doing this long enough and you're good at it, okay, your experience will speak for itself. You don't need to look great on paper. You don't need that. So if anyone ever tells you you need all these ASEs to own a shop, do anything like that, that's wrong. And especially when you go to look for technicians, some of the worst technicians I've ever hired had a ton of ASEs. Why? Because they went to trade schools, got them through the trade school. So on paper, they were great. But when it came down to it, they really didn't know anything, because the stuff that you learn day to day is stuff that you wouldn't even believe. You'll find random splices where it's in contact with itself, but somehow it just comes out, okay? So you'll find the weirdest things and you'll have to figure out the weirdest problems that no one's even ever seen, and you'll have to find those, even the ones that the dealership can't fix. I can't tell you how many times I have had a customer bringing a car from a dealer that said it needed an engine or needed this, and in reality, it didn't. There was nothing wrong with that at all. They just screwed it up. So having all that looks good on paper stuff, you don't need it to open a shop, okay? You just don't need it, okay? The next question is, how many employees do you think you're gonna need, right? So obviously if you're starting out, it's probably just you, okay? Maybe if you're lucky, you have a wife like my wife who helped me pretty much. I mean, she had a job at the time. She kind of moonlighted and helped out, but you know, she spent a lot of time doing the front for me, and she learned a lot doing it. And you don't have to have a ton of employees. Now, if you can afford employees, it's always good to have employees. I mean, employees will benefit you by being able to produce more work and get more stuff out. And if you can have someone that runs the front, I mean, you can really buffer yourself from customers. That way you only have to deal with customers when it's needed and when you really need to explain something in like full detail of this is exactly why it's gonna cost X amount of dollars to fix it, is because we found this problem, right? So that's the times that you have to step in and do stuff. But the other 80% of the time, you want someone who's already knowledgeable, at least to a good standard, that can pretty much navigate it for you and just pretty much keep the work flowing for you and whatever technicians you have. So that's one of really the biggest things that sometimes people screw up, is that they like think that, okay, well, if I'm opening a shop, I gotta hire all these people. No, you don't always have to do that. You should start small, because you just started. You don't want to go all in, you know, take out massive loans to try and start this big old operation, because you don't even know if it's gonna work. I've watched a ton of shops that over leverage themselves way too much. And when you over leverage yourself in the automotive industry, anything can happen, and you never really know if it's gonna dry up one day and there's gonna be, you know, a drought because of an economy issue or something like that, or if, you know, your employees are gonna screw something up, you're gonna have to pay for it. So you wanna just start small and do what you can afford at that time. Now, if you got some guys that want to come in there as technicians and work for like a low minimum, you know, that's good. That'll help you out a lot. That'll keep your payroll down. That'll make it to where if they work, you know, and they produce, then they make money. Our industry works off like a flag basis or a minimum basis. So the more you work, the more you do, the more you'll get paid. So what equipment would I need? We'll call that number 4. What equipment do I need? Okay. Well, AllData. You're gonna need AllData. Why? AllData is the #1 software, which some people say some data. It's AllData. Sometimes there will be things that aren't there. Maybe Mitchell will have it. Mitchell's another good software, but I choose AllData. The flow charts are decent. They're easy and understandable for me, especially when I'm doing electrical. So I personally like AllData. So you're gonna need an AllData subscription. Now, there are some advantages that you can get through like being a partner with AutoZone, that they actually will give you like an AllData subscription if you're part of like the ProVantage plans and stuff like that. So that is one good thing that you can kind of benefit from, and it's one less thing you got to pay for, because you are going to have some monthly things you're going to have to pay for. You're probably going to have, you know, tool bills. We all have tool bills. Why? Because it's an expensive industry and everything costs a lot of money. Do you need lifts? I mean, is it beneficial? Yeah, it's really beneficial. It's good to have lifts. I started with one. I mean, could I have done it without one? Yeah, we all can. But the thing is that you're gonna go to do it and it's gonna take you a lot more time, because when we're pulling the engine or transmission, sometimes it's just way easier to be able to have the ability to go up and down, you know, and be able to make it go a lot faster. So that helps a lot. You're gonna need an AC machine most likely. Now you can do it with manifold gauges like everyone's done since back in the day. But an AC machine is gonna make it a lot easier. It'll also help you when you're diagnosing an AC problem on a car, because you can pull out the Freon to see, does it have a leak? Is it fully charged but the compressor's not coming on? Is there another issue going on with it? Is it a Schrader valve leak, which would be like a small leak to where it's like a little bit's coming out, but it's still got some in the system? Things that will help you get your job done faster. Now these things will cost money. I mean, an AC machine is probably gonna run you about $6,000 from like Mac or someone. Now, there are alternative ones that you can get probably a lot cheaper, but I would choose some name brand ones. That way, when the tool guy comes, you can always warranty it out. Computers is a big thing that you're gonna need. Why? Because if you're gonna be doing invoicing, you're gonna be doing quoting, you're gonna be doing anything with parts, you're gonna need a computer. internet connection, all that good stuff. So that is things you're going to need. And if you have technicians too, they're going to need access to all data in the shop, as well as the people in the front will need access to all data as well, because they have to quote jobs. So multiple people are going to need it at one time. Now, I did it on my own in the beginning with just one computer, and it was back in the day when all data was a program that you bought and downloaded. And back then, there was people on Craigslist, that was a long time ago, that you could literally get like a bootleg Dell that had all data and had like up to this date, and you could get that, and when you got that from them, you could use it forever. And I used it forever. I want to say I used that thing for like 3 years at least. Okay, so that was very beneficial. That also saved me an all data subscription, so that saved me some money there. So you will need computers to do invoicing and stuff like that. You're gonna need a credit card machine if you're gonna take payments, because not everyone, it's not like the old days. Not everybody pays with check anymore. Not everybody pays with cash anymore. A lot of people use credit cards. Why? Because things are expensive, and not everyone's gonna have, you know, the money on their own. Say it's a very expensive $5,000 job. Not everyone can just come up with that cash right then and there. So you're gonna wanna make sure you have the ability to suit the customer better. So that's one of the big things you need to do as well. You need to have abilities for different payment options. Now, Zelle is another one some people are doing. I don't really like Zelle. It's just for me, it's odd. We never used it back in the day, but you know, just like all of us millennials, we have to kind of learn the new ways that things are kind of working now and the way that things are operating now. So if Zelle's, I mean, we've taken payments through Zelle. It's just kind of weird, but it works. So, you know, there's some cheap ones out there like Square. I think Square was one of the first ones I did. My bank luckily offers one. They have their own. We actually use a different company. It's like an outside company. It charges like maybe 3%, and that's something too. You're gonna have to eat that 3%. Take my advice on this. Don't put it back on the customer, because we did that, because it is expensive to run a shop, and sometimes taking those payments can be expensive because it adds up. You're gonna have to pay out of pocket for that, so you're kind of losing just by doing the job. Credit, you know, debit, whatever. If it's swiped, they're going to charge you. If it's keyed in, it's even worse. Stay away from that, especially if it's an Amex, because they can come back and they can back charge that, and they can take the money back. So you got to be careful with those. Okay, so that's all the stuff you're kind of going to need to get started on equipment, right? So, all right, let's go to number 5 here. Number 5 would be, do I need like a tax ID? Do I need an EIN? Do I need insurance? Should I make like an LLC? Practically yes, and yes. Okay, you're gonna need an EIN, okay, because you're going to have to at some point get linked up with dealers, and even if you do insurance jobs, they're gonna want to know that you're a real business. Okay, you have an EIN number, you are a taxpayer, you federal tax ID. Okay, you're gonna definitely want to make sure that you actually have a tax number too. If you're going to go tax exempt, which you don't have to, but a lot of these other places that you do business with vendors and dealerships, they're going to want you to be tax exempt because it's easier for them. That way you don't pay tax on it. The only tax that you practically pay, and this is in Texas, the tax will be, you'll tax the customer. Okay, and then the customer will pay you that tax, and then you pay the state that tax. So you're technically working for the state, which is just, it's part of doing business. We've all had to do it. Do we like doing it? Not really, but it's just a fact of doing business, and that's just something that you're gonna have to do. So it's good to have it, that way you can get linked up with the right people. The other thing is going to be insurance. And listen, this is the biggest one. You need to get insurance, because good customers are going to want you to be insured. Okay, why? Because that insures their car, and their car might be a $60,000 car, $70,000 car. Vehicle prices are extremely expensive these days, so you're going to need insurance to make sure that if your employees do something wrong, or say just a massive storm comes through and just a tree falls on a car or something like that, say there's a tree there to fall, okay? It's gonna be on you, and either you're gonna have to pay out of pocket, which could be, what if it's totaled, okay? What if that happens? Because These are all things that real shop owners, we've been through, okay? I can tell you that I have had 2 employees over 10 years that have literally totaled a customer's vehicle. And that is the most stressful, worrisome, just cluster of emotions, is getting a call and figuring out that your employee wasn't paying attention and they just literally totaled the customer's car. And now you're gonna have to call them and you're gonna have to tell them their car is totaled. But luckily you have insurance, and that insurance covers if something like that happens. That way you are not screwed. And that way, if it does happen, the customer's happy because guess what? Their car is covered and they're gonna get paid. It doesn't matter, so they're gonna be okay. So that is a big one. You wanna have insurance. You wanna make sure that you are insured. That way you're at least protecting yourself. The same as setting up a structured company, an S Corp, LLC, something like that. You're gonna wanna do that with a DBA of whatever business name you choose. That's going to protect you as well. There's a lot of ways, especially with renting places, where you could get screwed by, some guy. It's a predatory lease, but you're not structured right, and this guy drains you for everything you have. And I know people where this has happened, and that was the only thing that saved them, was being an LLC or an S Corp, because it protected them. Okay, so that's kind of those are all the main things when it comes to tax ID, EIN, insurance, stuff you're going to want to have, S Corp, all that stuff. Okay, so let's go to number 6 here. Number 6 is going to be, how do I advertise? Okay, you can use Google. Everyone uses Google. Okay, here's the problem with Google though. Google is not the best advertisement that you can get. Google is going to be expensive, number one. It's not always going to work. I have a buddy who owns a towing company, and he uses Google and he tries to do his own SEO stuff, and every time I talk to him, he's paying like a ton per click, per whatever. That advertise people around you, people you know. If you go to a church, advertise there. If you're part of a group, if you're part of anything that's like a social event or social places that you go, just advertise your business. Billboards, wouldn't really recommend it. Pretty expensive unless you're starting out, remember? So you don't really want to go all out just right now. You want to kind of build up slowly and over time. And then you can get to that maybe one day if you want to do that. If you want to put your face on a billboard, hey, go for it. So advertise how you can, but listen, one thing is word of mouth goes farther than anything. I can't tell you how many times I have literally thought word of mouth goes nowhere because I felt like I'm not getting back what I'm putting in and people aren't really recommending me. But then you find out, you'll start to have customers come, oh, well, they told me so many times about y'all and I just never thought about it. And you're like, okay, well, obviously this does work because I feel like this is where I get more business actually, the more I step back and really look at it. So that is one. Another one that you're going to have, with the advertising is going to come, how do I pick a labor rate? Okay, so setting a labor rate is going to be complicated, stressful. You're really not going to know what to do. You don't want to scare people off, but at the same time, you're operating a business. And with a business, you have expenses and things have to be paid. Employees, there's going to be employees like anyone that works in your front end. Okay, they're not like a technician. They're not technically making you physical money by working. They're working at the front. So those people are kind of like in this gray area of people that they make you money by selling a job, but they're not actively making you money by in the shop, renting out cars, doing all that stuff, making you actual flag hours and labor hours that help the shop to, hopefully turn a profit and just to give employees jobs. So setting a labor rate, the best way I can tell you to do that is call around to dealerships and other shops, okay? And just ask for an estimate on something. And at the end of it, just say, hey, and what's y'all's labor rate? Just curious. And most people will typically tell you what their labor rate is. Dealerships don't like to. That's the one person that you're going to have a hard time, but you're not a dealership, so don't even try to compare to those prices. You're trying to cut people a break on that, So you want to make sure that you're actually giving people a break, charging fairly, and doing stuff in the right manner. That way, people are happy and they'll come back. So setting a labor rate, look around, shop around, see what everyone else is charging. If everyone else is charging, 130 an hour, which seems to be about the going rate around here right now, then you should probably be around 130 an hour. Now, if you're real small and you just started, I would go even lower than that. I'd probably be at like, when I first started, my labor rate was 35 an hour. That was 10 years ago though, and times were a lot different. So you probably couldn't afford that these days. I don't know anyone who could. So I would probably try and stay like in the 85 to 110 if you're really, really new to this. You don't have a lot of overhead. You got to build with your customers. You're starting out with a clientele that's going to be a little bit different than the people that are typically going to the bigger shops that have been around a long time. And you need to grow with those customers because most of those customers are probably your age, and they're going to be long-time customers. So build slowly. Still stay loyal to those customers to kind of give them a break on labor rates because they're with you from the beginning, and you need to remember that because that's a big deal. I have customers that have literally been with me. Actually, my first customer, it was a car lot, and he is still with me to this day, and yet I have gone up on his labor rate because his was like 35 an hour, but he still comes back now, and that's 10, and that was my first customer. So with labor rates, shop around, just be fair, and just make sure that you can still pay for things and that you'll still be able to afford, you know, all the day-to-day things, and you'll be able to still pay employees and everyone walks away happy. So number 7, okay, setting up accounts with vendors, okay? That's a big one. You need to set up accounts with vendors. A lot of vendors are going to give you credit, okay? They're going to give you credit lines that you can use to do jobs with. So when you're doing that, you're going to have jobs, you know, say you need like 6 diesel injectors, right? That's expensive, especially with core charges. That's like $4,000 in just injectors. That's not cheap. So you're going to need the ability to not always come out of pocket on that and kind of be able to have like a credit line that you can pay off right as the job leaves at the end of the week. You can go, okay, cool, I got paid on that. I can pay this, I'm done. So get with vendors, get set up with that, and just make accounts with different, you know, open one with AutoZone, O'Reilly's, this and that. Now, be careful with that because employees will try and use your accounts to put parts on for their own stuff, and that's why you need to make sure that you only authorize yourself or the person at the front to order parts. That is it, nobody else. So that is very important. You want to make sure that you are protecting yourself from people buying things off your account. Don't give out your account PIN numbers, okay? You give out those, people will put stuff on your account, you'll have to redo everything, okay? The other thing you're going to deal with some vendors, especially dealerships, is you're going to deal with list and cost, okay? So when you're doing list and cost, the fact that you're a shop, you have a tax ID number, an EIN, you have all these different things that make you a physical shop that is insured, licensed, all that stuff, okay? They will give you the opportunity when you set up accounts with them that you can get things at cost, and then a list price is what a customer would pay if they walked straight into, say, Ford and said, I needed a water pump on my F-150, okay? And they said, okay, we have it in stock, it's $468, okay? Now, cost and list, since you're a shop, you can call them and you can say, I need that same water pump, F-150, okay? And instead of the $400, like, actual cost, you don't have to pay that. In fact, yours gonna be a lot less sometimes. It's gonna be like $289 will be cost, okay? Now you can still sell that to the customer at the list price. And why? Because you are a shop and you still have to be able to make money off of parts and stuff because that's what pays overhead. But you're still selling it to the customer at the same exact price as the customer walking into the dealership, okay? So the customer's still getting at the same price because they didn't have to jump through all the hoops that you had to jump through to open a business. That is an incentive to having a shop, is getting things at cost. That is, you get a free markup on that is literally yours. Only you can get it. You had to jump through all the hoops. You had to go through all this to get it. Now you have it and you can be able to make the money off of that. So you want to make sure that you actually use list and cost. Now, sometimes with other companies that aren't dealerships, you'll see list and cost. Their list is not the list with customer walked in. It's incorrect. Do not use that. That is when you will just do simple markup. So make sure you set up with vendors, understand list and cost. That's one thing that's very important. So Number 8, should I pay someone to advertise for me? Maybe just a little bit, okay? You can try an SEO. You can try Google special things on there. You can try all that, but I really wouldn't recommend it if you're just starting out. I would not recommend an SEO. They're too expensive. They're just gonna cost you too much money. It's really just not the best idea. So I really wouldn't do anything with that off the jump. You're just opening up, you're just getting insured, you're just getting licensed, you're just getting all your accounts set up with places, you're just getting clientele walking in through the door. I wouldn't do that just yet. I'd hold off just a little while. So I wouldn't pay anyone just yet. Now, if you get bigger and you can afford it, go for it. But remember, like I said, word of mouth really, honestly, is one of the biggest things that will help you the most. And that really is just an old term that is still true. So number 9, one thing you're gonna have to do, just like if you're doing this YouTube video, you're gonna need confidence, and you're gonna need a lot of it, because you're gonna have to deal with some very stressful situations at times. Now, it doesn't always come easy. You're not just gonna wake up with it every day, trust me. But you're just gonna have to sometimes be confident, because the number one thing with employees as well, they need someone that's leading them that is confident. And if that person is confident, okay, that person helps the rest of the shop to feel confident in what they're doing as well. If you breathe that confidence out of you, then a lot of people around you will be the same way. And you're going to need to be confident, and you're gonna need to really portray that you are confident in what you're doing, because customers need to trust that what you're doing is the right way to do it. They need to know that they're leaving their car with someone who is good at their job, knows what they're doing, and is not going to screw it up. Because in today's day and age, there's a lot more mobile mechanic services out there, and I'm not saying that they're bad or anything. That's not that at all. There's a lot of great ones out there. But there's a lot that are really bad, and we have them towed into the shop where they have completely just obliterated something. And you're like, how did y'all even like get here? Okay, God. Okay, so you need confidence. You need to make sure that you are confident when you're talking to customers. You're making sure you're confident in your decisions that you make for customers. You're doing the right thing, but have confidence. Number 10, the last one, okay? Is it profitable? Yes, it can be a very profitable industry. You know, my wife stays at home and raises our son now. She does not have to work. She does her books and stuff from the house, but she doesn't have to work right now. But this is 10 years in. It's gonna be slowly profitable. It's gonna take years to build it up. Don't get discouraged. Don't feel like if it's not immediate that it's not gonna happen. You know, everything takes time. At first you'll be profitable a little bit, and then a little bit more profitable, and you'll grow and things will get more expensive. You'll have more payroll, you'll have taxes, you'll have a lot more things to start coming out, you know, payroll taxes especially, and, you know, insurance payments on the shop, and all data, invoicing systems, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of things that are gonna add up after a while, and so that's why it's going to be a slow process, but once it is, yes, it can be a very profitable thing. I mean, most shops typically will run $1 million a year. Now, is that your take home? Depends on exactly how you're doing things. Most people's take home is not $1 million, I can tell you that. But there are massive shops out there where they do probably take home $1 million. The dealerships probably do, considering that they charge people so much money. So, you know, that's just, it's profitable, but you have to have the grit, and you have to have the confidence, and you have to have the drive to actually do it. I mean, it's not something that you can just go in willy-nilly and just say, well, I'm gonna try here and I'm gonna try there. No, you have to give it 100% almost every day. You gotta be able to perform. And if you can do that and you do it all right, then yes, you can make an honest living for your family, and you can be able to do some things in life that you wouldn't have been able to do. Should you save for a rainy day? Yes, because people always worry about, in this industry, like, you know, people always talk about winter. Okay, well, winter's not always slow. Typically, most shops are busy year-round, but you never know if something's going to happen that, say multiple employees just quit, right? and you can't find anyone to replace them, because right now in our industry, there is really no one to hire, okay? If that happens, you're gonna need some money, put back, obviously, because you're going to have some money to pay all those bills that are still gonna be there. You might not have payroll, but you're still gonna have bills. So you wanna always set back some money for a rainy day. That is one thing that you wanna do. So the other thing too, this is the last thing, how do you pay yourself? Okay, well, you can pay yourself, any way that you really feel like. The way that I pay myself that works for me is that I get paid just like my technicians do, but I'm actually out there in the shop with my technicians. That's how I do it, okay? Your situation might be different. You might not want to do that. You might want to just be behind the computer and do it that way. You'll just have to figure out a salary. This industry can be kind of confusing because it's not like industries where you always know how much you're going to make that month, okay? This industry, it's kind of every month is different. It just depends on, economics and how everything's functioning in society. And not even that, sometimes it's just how many cars are broke that week, or how many cars are broke the next week, or how many cars are broke this month. So you have to find like a medium threshold of where really you can pay yourself and the business doesn't hurt from it, because you should always make sure that you're not taking too much out of your business, that you're leaving a lot of everything in that business, and you're paying yourself a decent amount wage, but you're making sure that you're not taking it all out of the business, because that's how your business will implode and you will make a mistake. And I've seen a lot of companies and people that have done that. They have taken almost all the money out of the company constantly, and then they file for bankruptcy because they took too much. So pay yourself flag, pay yourself whatever you want, but just make sure you're not taking too much. And just remember, it's gonna take time to really, lift off and make some good money. Is it profitable? Yes, it can be profitable, and you can do it. Obviously, if you're watching this video, this is something you've been really thinking about, and I hope to be able to, with some of the YouTube that I'm gonna start doing now, to guide you kind of through this process, to help you to understand the logistics of this industry, and how to be in it for a while, how to profit in it, all the different things that you can do, all the resources available to you, and how to just help customers and to establish relationships with customers to where they trust you and to where you're doing a good service for them and they like what you're doing. So, with that, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, please like, please share, please do whatever. I'm going to really be diving into a lot of stuff here in the next couple months on just the ins and outs of business, tips and tricks and stuff that I've learned down the way, kind of day-to-day stuff that we do. I'm going to put a lot of this stuff out there that's just some really cool stuff. I'm going to put a lot of the Cummins build stuff out there too. So I'm going to really start putting a lot on this because I found this pretty interesting and fun to do for YouTube. And it's kind of nice to give back to some people, because I know right now in our industry, we're low on technicians, we're low on a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are really, there's a lot of shops that are hurting right now. So I want to put this out there for some people to inspire them to try to do something that you didn't think you could do, because there is a high chance and probability that you can do this. It's not completely impossible. It's something highly achievable. If I did it with $2,800 from selling my car, and I've made it 10 years, then you can definitely do this too. And I think we all have faith in you on that. So with that, y'all have a great day. Just get out there and give it a go, man. Because at the end of the day, only you are in charge of what you do in life. And if you don't take that leap, you'll never know what will happen. So with that, I'm out. Y'all have a good day.